One thing I'd love to see for Grounded is a roadmap. I've had people comment that the feature board is a roadmap, and while it does list possible upcoming features, what it doesn't do is list them in the order they are coming. In this video, I'm going to briefly look at the feature board, and then I'll show you how a roadmap might look. Let's get started. This is the feature board for Grounded. You've probably either seen this yourself, or you may be seen it in one of my previous videos, or perhaps in other content creators' videos. What this does is it lists all the things from the most recent update, as well as previous updates, and what is being planned or worked on for the future. Now, I have had some people comment that this is actually a roadmap. I would not consider this a roadmap. I would consider it's just a board where things are going to be listed that they may or may not be added to the game. So before we go actually look at some of these things, I do want to point out one thing up here that is important. And I'm not going to read this whole thing. You can read that for yourself if you want to. I'll leave a link for the feature board down in the description below in case you're interested in checking it out or haven't been there before. But this sentence right here is kind of important. And what it says is, nothing is set in stone and features could be moved up, pushed back, or unfortunately removed. So just because something's on here doesn't mean it's going to be guaranteed to be added into the game. And just because something's not on here doesn't mean it's not going to be added. For example, most of this stuff that was in this last update was not on this board. In fact, looking at it, pretty much none of it was, unless you look at the vague things such as when we go down here and look at things like additional crafting stations or there are some new quests, additional weapon types, so there were some new weapons. And then, of course, it'll always say that there's things like additional creatures and backyard environments. So I guess those are vaguely in here. But this roadmap didn't include any of the things that were being added, such as the wood pile, the different bugs that were being added, any of the weapons. And I'm not saying that the roadmap would have to go that level of detail, but I think it would be nice if, instead of just leaving these things vaguely here, they maybe could expand upon them more. And then if we scroll past here real quick just for a second, you'll see below these, in case you're interested, was everything added in the previous updates. You got Hot and Hazy, Shroom and Doom, and then all the ones before that. But what we're most interested in is what is going to be right here in the middle. These are the coming soon, planned, and for the future. I've talked about these in the past in previous videos, so I'm not going to go through each one of them over again, because to be honest, none of these have changed from what I've seen. I do check the feature board on a regular basis, and I don't recall any of these changing. In fact, most of them look like they're in the exact same color as well. So for example, things that are in progress, the story, the full completable story, additional crafting stations, additional burger quests, additional weapon types, those have all been blue along with these others up here, the quality of life and the inventory management improvements. Now, some of these have been worked on, so maybe there's more to come, but these have been in blue, so they've been in progress for as long as I can remember, whereas other things down here have not. And one thing that's interesting is, like, for example, the ant pheromone control was actually in the public test server for the Hot and Hazy update if you played in creative. If you tried to create it, though, it would actually crash the game, but the asset for it was actually in the game. Didn't say what it did, so you can speculate on what it's going to do. Who knows? It's either going to control the ants. Maybe it could be used to spawn in the ant queen, so it might be like the BLT for the brood mother. But it was actually in the game at one point, so it probably does exist. However, it's not even shown here as being worked on, so I find that kind of interesting. But anyway, without going through all these, what I want to do is just try to suggest how I would like to see a roadmap and why I would think a roadmap would make sense. So first of all, why would a roadmap make sense? I think right now there's a little bit of discontent, or more discontent than normal, within the community. Up until the Into the Wood update, and I've said this before, the positivity surrounding the game was at like just all-time high. It was always positive. Very rarely did you hear people complain about anything. Everybody was always positive. When the new update came out, people were positive. The Into the Wood update, though, kind of changed a lot of people's minds, and I think what ended up happening was they kind of were spoiled. Like I've said this before, and I'm not going to go too far into this. The Into the Wood update was really good. It was a good update, but it just didn't live up to the expectations that I think a lot of people set, unfortunately, because the Hot and Hazy update was the best update the game's ever had. It added so much to the game, tons of content, game-changing things, new features like being able to upgrade your weapons and stuff like that. So it added so much to the game that it kind of set the bar super high. And the Into the Wood update, honestly, was going to have a really tough time living up to it. So when it dropped and only had probably a day or two's worth of content, if you didn't start fresh, I think that left people a little bit disappointed. In addition to that, it was the first time that they added new insects that did, at least in my knowledge, that didn't drop unique resources, I believe. Although I think maybe some of the infected insects did drop fungal growth. So while those were basically reskins too, some of these things, like for example, the ladybird and the ladybird larva, they just drop the same resources as the ladybugs and the regular larva. Although they do drop the bug goop, so that is one thing they do drop. But they basically just don't drop anything unique. And I'm guessing that sometime in the future that this might change. Maybe they'll add some kind of resource, maybe a new weapon or armor or something that just goes along with these insects. But that, along with the fact that you could pretty much do everything within the, I don't know, 3 to 5 hours or so, if you just blew through it and didn't take your time, kind of left a little people turned off. And I think what a roadmap would do would be to help keep those people engaged in the game It would help show that what's coming up next so they could be looking forward to it. And it would also allow people to maybe get some kind of timeline. Like, I'm not looking for exact dates, but as you'll see when I show my example of what a roadmap could look like, it could at least put things in order of when they could be, when we can expect them, and maybe the high level things that are going to come, not everything, because of course surprises are always cool. I don't want everything. I don't want them to tell us every little detail of everything that's coming and every update coming up, but just some high level details. So let's take a look at the roadmap template that I put together, and one that I think, and hopefully you'll agree with it, that if they put something like this out, it would definitely keep interest in the game and just give us a better idea of what to expect going forward. So this is something I just threw together today. It just took me a couple of minutes, and what it is just a roadmap template. I used basically what I've seen from other games. For example, Deep Rock Galactic did something like this. Another game I'm playing over on my other channel, Core Keeper, released with their early access launch. They released a roadmap that looked pretty similar to this. And what it does is, instead of, it just basically gives you a rough idea of what to expect going forward without giving you exact details. Now, of course, I'd love for them to actually give us dates for these things, but I know things can change and things are up, there's things in flux. So I don't want them to have to commit to a date and then not meet it and have people get upset with it. So if they could just do something along the lines like this, where, and again, a lot of these things, I put things in here, some of these things are from the feature board, other things were things that were speculated upon, and none of this is purely me putting this together. So do not take any of this as if it's definitely coming or it's coming in this order or anything like that. This is purely just an example of what something might look like if they could put a roadmap out for the rest of the year. So basically what would have different updates. So for example, in my update 1, I had central upper yard, so that'd be the area to the right of the shed, which was just updated. So the western part of the upper yard was updated. I would guess that the next thing to be coming might be the central upper yard. I just put the Ant Queen on there, as well as armor upgrades and a new Ominate Lab. Those are just some high level features. Now, of course, the next update will most likely have a couple of new insects, maybe a new weapon or new armor type like that, perhaps new quests. It could have all those things. But I think if they just gave us a high level thing of like, okay, this is the part of the yard we're going to work on next, and maybe some interesting things, like for example, the Ant Queen's coming. We're going to add armor upgrades, which would be a new mechanic in the game. It'd be a new crafting station, and just say there's going to be a new lab. But it could be anything. They could just put whatever they want on here, but that's just an example. Update 2, I just said east upper yard, so that would be the part to the right. That's the part where in the video I did where I said the new hedge might be located. That would be that part of the yard. So they could say something like the Praying Mantis. I know everybody's been talking about the Praying Mantis and they want to see the Praying Mantis. The devs have not confirmed or denied the Praying Mantis. This is just here as an example of something that might come, because like if a Praying Mantis comes, it would probably make sense for it to be that part of the yard, especially if there's a new hedge. So they could maybe say something like the east upper yard, Praying Mantis is coming, there's going to be a lab there, and we're going to add the weather system. Again, these are all just things I've thrown in here as placeholders. They could put as much detail or as little detail in there as possible. Update 3, Upper Koi Pond, so that'd be the part that's on the eastern side of the map. So it's basically on the far right side of the map, just below where this other area is where I said the hedge would be. There's a little bit of water up there, and there's also a little grassy area that's not been updated. So I was just saying Upper Koi Pond, new mini boss, basically being the berry monster, which would be in that lab there. Again, there's no confirmation of that. I'm just putting something in here. New Ominate Lab, which would be that lab that's in the wall, and then maybe some new Burgle quests. So that would be the idea for an update 3. Update 4, 1.0 release, full story, higher tier armor and weapons. Just some placeholders. And then down here at the bottom will be post-release, because they did say, again, in the developer live stream this week, they said that there's going to be stuff planned for after 1.0. So when the game fully releases, at least as of right now, they're not just going to cut development and everything's going to be done at that point. They are planning on adding more stuff. And like I said, we'll see what's going to be added, what's not going to be added. Like they said in that, there's the little disclaimer at the beginning of the feature board. Just because something's on the feature board doesn't mean it is coming, doesn't mean it's not going to get changed or moved around. So just because everything's on there doesn't mean it's guaranteed to come. Hopefully it all does. Hopefully there's more, because like I said, a lot of the stuff that's been added since I started playing the game again last summer was not on the feature board. It was just surprises, or was vaguely covered under one of the topics that was on there. But these are things that I just threw in here: base raids, the base blueprints. So these are the defenses, the decorations, the power buildings, the framework for player-generated content. All that is currently on there, as well as insect, pet enhancements, and additional building options. So I kind of get the feeling that after 1.0, there's going to be a lot of stuff like maybe bug fixes where they just tidy some stuff up. Maybe they clean up some terrain. And I think there's going to be a lot of cosmetic stuff. So the building, things like that. And hopefully they add some more mechanics like base raids. For me, will be something that will keep me playing a long time. But basically, this was just kind of what I came up with. And while I'd love that, like at the bare minimum, if they put something like this together, I think that would be super useful. It would give us an idea of when things are coming. It would be really, really helpful if the update actually had some type of time frame, even if it was like a 1 to 3 month window. Let's say, for example, the next update is going to be April or May. They could say update 1, either April or May, or maybe Q2. Update 2, whenever that's going to be, Update 3. Now, I just threw these in here. There might only be 1 or 2 more updates until full release. Who knows how many there's going to be? We don't know. They could go back to monthly. I don't think they're going to go back to monthly updates, although I'd love to see monthly updates. I think more likely than not, they're just going to stay along with their 2 to 4 month updates at this point. Although with Adam appearing on the live stream at the end of the month on the 23rd of March, there's a chance I'm sure there's going to be some kind of news about what's coming in the next update, or when the next update can be expected. Hopefully it comes sooner rather than later. But anyway, this is just my idea of what a roadmap could look like. Something as simple as this. It could have more details. It could have less details. Just anything at this point to kind of get us like a plan towards to get to the finish line and what might be beyond the finish line. I think that would be super helpful in keeping people engaged, even if they're not currently playing the game as much as they were before. They're just looking for updates. I know people, like, for example, most recently I've noticed my update videos tend to get more views than any of my guide videos, because I think right now people are just interested in what's happening with the game. When's the next update going to be? When's the game going to be finished? They just want to get their hands on everything, because at the end of the day, what we want is a finished game with a completable story. That's what we all want, and hopefully it'll be the best game possible. I fully expect them to deliver a fantastic game at the end of the year. So anyway, if you found this video enjoyable, if this is something you'd like to see, make sure you hit the like button and consider subscribing for more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and thank you to all my channel members, especially the Overseer91, Grey Knight, and Baz channel, and all my other channel members who help make videos like this possible. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.